Hey, what's up, nerds? Thanks for sticking around and listening to all my video reviews of TV shows and all the other things we got going on. But let's get back to comics. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite graphic novels and comic series to come out in recent times, and that's The Last Ronin. Now, if you haven't read The Last Ronin, I'm going to do a non-spoiler beginning, but at the end, I'll let you guys know, and we'll go into details of the book. Because if you don't know, The Last Ronin stars our favorite fun-filled, loving teenage superheroes from the 90s. That's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But it takes a definitely dark, gritty, futuristic turn. Actually, the entire series is a dark, futuristic take on the Ninja Turtles. But part of the story is the mystery of who the Last Ronin is. It's a big part of the story, a big part of the drama. And if I give it away, it may ruin the story for you. But I think this book came out quite a few years ago, so I think it's safe to talk about spoilers, but I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it. So be warned. I'll let you know later on in the video when we're going to talk about details. You'll be safe. Then you can come back and listen to the rest. So yeah, when you think of the Ninja Turtles, you think of fun-loving jokes and silly stories and bright colors and just all around hilarious hijinks. But that's not what The Last Ronin is about. It throws all that out the window and takes place in a dark, gritty future where there's one turtle left. And he is the Last Ronin, and the mystery is which of the Ninja Turtles is this lone figure, and how did he get there? How did this story get to the place where it is, and how did we get into this bleak future? So yeah, the set is in a ruined, authoritarian New York City in 2040. It follows a single turtle on a suicide mission to try to fix what's going on in the city and exact revenge for what's happened to him and his brothers. There's only one turtle left. Splinter is gone. The Foot Clan rules the city, and it's definitely not a happy place. The identity of the Last Ronin, like I said before, is kept a mystery. Creates tension. You want to figure out how this character got to where he is. Speculation throughout the first few issues or the first few chapters of the book. It's brutal. There's a lot of brutality in this book. It is not the Ninja Turtles that we read when we were kids, or the cartoon that we watched, or any of the movies at all. It's definitely not a Saturday morning cartoon. The story is about grief. It's about a survivor's guilt. It's about legacy. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, and this also, the main theme of the story is like, can vengeance bring you peace? If you're obsessed with vengeance, what it will do to you and how it will change who you are as a person or as a mutant or a turtle in this story. The original storytellers, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, returned to write this along with other writers and collaborating with other artists on this book. So that's one of the things I love most about it, is it comes from the original authors and creators of the Turtles. There's tons of action. It's sharp. It's kinetic. There's a lot of emotional weight, and it drives the narrative. The themes are revenge versus redemption, honor and responsibility, trauma, and the brutality of the brutal legacy of this dark future. The character of the Ronin isn't just fighting his enemies; he's fighting himself, and what this series of events has turned him into. It's really intriguing. There's a lot of cool internal monologues, a lot of good story. The narrative is pretty top notch. I think overall, I probably would rate the story probably 8.5, 9 out of 10. It's definitely not perfect. I definitely have some things in there I think they could have done a little bit better, but it's nice. I enjoy watching and reading stories of like a future that could have been, or it's one of my favorite things about storytelling in comics is these characters are timeless. They're created at a time. We know who their archetypes are. We know who Spider-Man is. We know who Superman is. We know who the Ninja Turtles are, but they're just like mythological characters, and we can tell different versions of them, and we can tell different stories, and we can see what may have happened. This doesn't mean that this is how every Ninja Turtle story will ever end, but we can enjoy this one and read it and see how it went with this specific series of events. When this book came out, it was an immediate hit. There's a hardcover graphic novel. It's New York Times bestsellers. It's definitely highly rated amongst most reviewers. I'm not the first person, won't be the last person to talk about this story for sure. I'm not breaking any ground here at all. It's got a lot of praise, bold reinvention, and there has been a lot of media talk. There was a video game that was planned that I don't think is happening anymore. They talked about doing a movie version of this, so some things have been tossed out. I think eventually we will see some sort of adaptation of this story. because it's too good to leave alone. It definitely will make some type of form into some media. There's action figures about it, which are action figures of the Last Ronin and other characters from the story as well. So I definitely look forward to whenever they do adapt this. I think it would make a phenomenal miniseries on TV or a movie. Maybe a little too big for a movie, but definitely a miniseries on like an Amazon Prime or Netflix would be chef's kiss. So if you're a fan of fiction, if you love the Ninja Turtles, if you were a kid growing up Ninja Turtles, you got to read this. If you like comic books in general, like do yourself a favor, read the story. It's absolutely phenomenal. You'll love it. You can stop by your local comic shop. I'm sure you can get it at local bookstores as well. Total recommend. It's not just another TMNT story. It's definitely something that is pretty hard hitting and deep. And I think that if you like gritty stories and you like things like that, you'll definitely enjoy this. And if you like the Turtles in any type of form, you'll enjoy the story at all. Might not be one for the kids. May not want to give this one to the little ones, but it's essential reading in my book. Everybody, fair warning. Now we're going into spoilers. So the beginning of the story of Last Ronin, you don't know who the Last Ronin is. It does get revealed throughout the story before the ending. You see step by step the tragic incidents that caused the other Ninja Turtles to be murdered and killed in pretty horrible ways. And you find that the last Ninja Turtle left is Michelangelo. And that's part of one of the great narratives of this story is it recontextualizes what we expected. Like, this is the Last Ronin. This is the best Ninja Turtle, the grittiest Ninja Turtle, the darkest one. Which one could it be? And how could it be our fun-loving, nunchuck-wielding, pizza-eating Mikey? Like, everybody loves Mikey. He's everybody's favorite. So through a series of flashbacks, you learn how each Ninja Turtle died, and it's pretty rough. Raphael is actually the first to die, which kind of makes sense because he's always the hothead. He's the one rushing into battles, biting off more than he can chew. He dies in a brutal confrontation when he storms like one of the Foot Clan's strongholds. He fights valiantly, but is ultimately just overtaken and killed. Donatello later dies, on a mission with Mikey, and he dies in Mikey's arms, and you see how that just traumatizes Mikey. It's a heartbreaking moment. Leonardo and Master Splinter fall together on a last stand against the Foot Clan. They're killed in this tragic showdown, and that leaves Mikey as the sole survivor, watching all of his brothers and Master Splinter die. Each death pushes Michelangelo further into isolation, more trauma. The playful brother who brought levity to the team is like haunted now by the voices of his brothers, and has like literal manifestations of his guilt and grief appear throughout the entire story. And, he just relives these events over and over again. And you see how he's lost the version of himself that we all grew up loving. I won't go too much into detail of the story itself. I want you to enjoy something. I've already spoiled the best part if you hadn't read this. But there's other characters. We have April O'Neil. We have April's daughter, aptly named Casey. You can figure out who her dad is. The story is a complete story from beginning to end. It's not an ongoing story, so you get the graphic novel, you get everything in one bite, which I love. This story definitely has a legacy continues feel to it at the end, so you'll appreciate that. But you see this story through, you see Michelangelo's journey through, and it definitely shows, sacrifice helps the enduring spirit of the Turtles live on. I could say that even though I kind of guessed that they might do something like with having Michelangelo being the last turtle, I could kind of guess that because it would be it's a great surprise, but also predictable in the same instance. But like, you would have expected, Leonardo, who's the leader, to be the last one, or perhaps Raphael, who's known as the greatest of the four turtles, like being the last one. Like, those things could have been expected, and I'm sure would have had good thematic stories, and there might be versions of those stories down the road. But having it being Michelangelo, the brother who is defined by humor and joy, just see how this loss has affected him and changed him and turned him into, when you watch like how he fights and how brutal he is, and it's definitely nothing that you would have ever seen in any of the Turtle comics, even the more adult, mature themed Ninja Turtle comics that are out there that are more violent than the original version of the Ninja Turtles, which was super violent and not anything like the Saturday morning cartoons that we've grew to love. It definitely makes the best thematic choices is to have it be Michelangelo and watch him go through that change. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's fantastic. I would love to hear what your guys' thoughts on The Last Ronin is. If you read it, if you haven't read it, go out and buy it. Read it, come back here, let me know how you feel about it. It's just a fantastic book. I think you'll love it. I'm going to try to do some more comic reviews of things that I've read throughout time, not just stuff that's coming out now. Of course, if you live in the Hudson Valley area, we got Carter's Comics and Collectibles and other LCSs, local comic book shops throughout the Hudson Valley. Please support the small business. If you can't get to one of those, this is something that you can get at any major retailer, Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, they have them as well. So go grab it, read it, let me know what you think about it, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.